So when it comes to unleashing more power from your body, there are lots of different ways you can do it. Essentially, you're striving towards biomechanical perfection, i.e. there's a certain alignment of the structure and the muscles in your body that will deliver optimal results in a certain order and a certain alignment. And then there's real world, i.e. there might be certain things I can do in a completely relaxed physical state, but there's no point in talking about them if I know that in a state of physical conflict I'm going to have a lot of muscular tension. There's realistic biomechanics and then there's ideal biomechanics. I've talked before about various things and the delivery of power, little tricks you can use, like thinking about the opposite hip when you're moving, when you're striking, for instance, when you're throwing the right hand, thinking about twisting the left hip as far as possible away, and vice versa when you're throwing with the left hand, thinking about twisting the right hip as far away as possible. Various little tricks. One of the things you can do to instantly deliver more power in your striking is around the shoulders, the shoulder joints, and there's two key ways you can do this. Right, I'm looking at decent biomechanics for delivering something like the jab. I want to be nice and tight in. I've got good balance. I'm going to step, I'm going to drive off my rear foot, I'm going to project my body weight forward, and I'm going to get a good, clean, fast, straight extension, maybe with a twist, depending on my preference. I'm going to drive that, boom, and back again. Now that's fine, and the more I do this, the more biomechanical efficiency I get into that movement. Something I might not naturally start to do unless I'm doing a lot of resistance work, working on heavy bags, working with partners, is to start to pull that shoulder in consciously into that movement. Which I mean really engaging that shoulder in the movement. There's a subtle difference between that movement and that movement where I consciously engage the shoulder. It's a significant difference in the power you deliver. And you might not feel this working with partners, shadowboxing, but when you start to work on the bag with this, you really feel there's a big difference when you engage the shoulder in that consciously. So with my good biomechanics, I'm driving with my jab, consciously engage that shoulder. It's like I've got this power that it's tearing out of me, and I have to hold it back. I don't know what to do with it. Once I engage that shoulder, I'm getting into the deep power then. The deep biomechanical power that's in my body, and it's similar for the right hand. You know, good biomechanics, got my good base. I'm gonna get that leverage, that torque, and twist the hips away, drive that forward, boom. But when I start to actively engage that shoulder, when I drive that whoosh, then I start to get this big power that's been hidden away. Once I engage that shoulder, it's like I've got to pull it back. I mean, there's nothing, I'm not even throwing that out. Once I engage that shoulder, punch is throwing itself, really. So that's the one way, engaging the shoulder. The second thing about the shoulder is elastic recoil. And you'll see this a lot, guys like Joe Louis, a lot of the olden fighters, they knew all this stuff. Ali, elastic recoil. And what that is using that return, elastic return that's locked into my ligaments and my joints. So I'm letting my shoulder lead the arm to pull like an elastic band on a slingshot, and that then propels the arm forward. The differences are subtle, and they're working together really. When I engage that shoulder, I'm engaging also the potential for that elastic recoil. And you'll see this with Ali a lot, particularly in his counters. So you can pull back and you'll see that elastic recoil on his right hand. Whoosh, it's coming forward. You see it on Joe Lewis. You really throw that shoulder forward and you'll see this little roll. It's like a little roll. He's using elastic recoil to propel that right hand over. So when he throws it, whoosh, he's so far over, whoosh, with his body. By the time his hand comes out, whoosh, he's got all of that elastic recoil power into his shots. Now you can do this stuff, and what you'll find is, you'll find it feels a bit slower when you're shadowboxing, in particular, and when you're working lightly with a partner. You'll find it feels a bit slower. Because you're having to hold back the power. But once you get on the bag, and once you get into heavier sparring, you feel the power of that elastic recoil and that committing the shoulder. You won't go back. So I suggest you start on the bag first rather than human punch bags, but really work that shoulder commitment and that elastic recoil, and you'll start to feel the big power that you've not realised you had before. That is, if you're getting something from this video, if you already knew this stuff, if you're already working on it, that's great, because this stuff does come to you naturally. The more you're working, you'll start to discover this stuff. But if you haven't yet, this is going to turn on power like you didn't realise you had. So elastic recoil, whoosh, and commitment with those shoulders. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You really feel massive power difference. Whoosh. And as I say, it might feel slower in shadowboxing and light work with partners. This is because you're really driving through the full extension of all of the ligaments and muscular biomechanical energy that's in your body. You're recruiting it all, and so you're creating kind of long pathways that are increasing the power. It doesn't work so well when you're pulling the power out of that. You don't feel the advantage so much, but once you're working at optimum power, rush, as you will be in a real situation, rush, that's when you start to feel that whoosh, elastic recoil, whoosh, and that commitment, that full biomechanical commitment of the shoulder. Whoosh.